Hello and welcome everybody to this week's episode of the Forest Radio Show. Today we have myself, Jack, and a very special guest, John Parry. Hi there, John. Would you like to...
Hi, yes, it's great to be here. Yep, excellent.
Do you want to give yourself like a bit of an introduction, or do you want me or Jack to...
Well, really, just to say, the Forest Food Garden has done really well. You're doing a fantastic job with it. No, I'll hand back to you two and come in later on.
And I should say, I mean, John is a man that needs no introduction, really. But Dr. John Parry is incredibly important for our Forest Garden Society and the Forest Garden at the University of Sussex, and many, many things that John has done in his life, some of which hopefully we will get into and talk about in the show today. John has just last year retired or semi-retired from his teaching role at the university. He taught us the Forest Garden module. Just this Monday has actually done a guest lecture on the module, talking about what, with the theme of what we leave behind and the people that came before us. So it's really good timing that we've got John on today.
Especially as sort of none of this would have been here without John's.
Oh, don't tell me to that, guys.
Good cry to start things off.
Yeah, exactly.
which is good, because the first song we're going to play is, Luke,
The Water by Johnny Flynn and Laura Marling. And yeah, I'll take it away, and I hope you guys will enjoy.
Just cannot stay, or I'll sink in my skin and my bones. The water sustains me without even trying. The water can't drown me, I'm done with my dying. Please help me build a small boat, one that'll ride on the flow, where the river runs deep and the larger fish creep. I'm glad of what keeps me afloat. The water sustains me without even trying. The water can't drown me, I'm done with my dying. Now deeper the water I sail, and faster the current I'm in. But each night brings the stars, and the song in my heart is a tune for the journeyman's tale. The water sustains me without even trying. The water can't drown me, I'm done with my dying. Now the land that I knew is a dream, and the line of distance grows faint. So wide is my river, the horizon a sliver. The artist has run out of pen, where the blue of the sea meets the sky, and the big yellow sun leads me home. I'm everywhere now, the way is a vow to the wind of each breath by and by. The water sustains me without
Hello and welcome back to the Forest Garden Show. That was The Water by Johnny Flynn and Laura Marling. What did you think of that song, John?
I thought it was very soothing, very nice. I could see myself sort of paddling down a river with it.
We're big fans of Johnny Flynn at the Forest Garden Society.
Jack especially.
And we have already started an unofficial campaign to get Johnny Flynn to perform at our Forest Garden Festival on the 4th of April, because we know you're listening, Johnny, and we know you'd love to come.
And we won't stop harassing you until you say yes.
Very good.
So yeah, that was the beautiful music of Johnny Flynn and Laura Marling. And now we're going to talk about the origins of the Forest Garden with its founder, Dr. John Parry. So John, could you first tell us about how this all began?
Yes, it's one of those sort of accidental things in one sense, because I was approached by someone who'd Googled me in it's probably 2017, late 2017, about forest food gardens and wanted to set up a sort of national group. And there were about 6 of us that came together. And I'd never heard of forest food gardens, and I was intrigued. Quickly realised that a key person in this was Martin Crawford, down in Devon at the Agroforestry Research Trust. And to sort of get to the chase a bit, my contribution to trying to raise the profile of forest food gardens was to suggest, well, why don't we try and put one into the Chelsea Flower Show, which was pretty ambitious, really. I mean, you need about £400,000 to put something into Chelsea.
Wow.
But we got hold of Juliet Sargent, who was absolutely wonderful. Well, we didn't get hold of her. We made contact with her. She thought it was a lovely idea, and she won in 2016. She won gold for the Modern Slavery Garden at Chelsea, and is really a lovely person in her own right and lovely ideas, and came on board. We had about 6 of us or so. We got promised around about 200,000, so we were doing reasonably well. We bought £1,000 worth of plants in 2018 to sort of bring them on and had them in Arundel. And we got to a point where we needed leverage. We really needed somebody, some institution to come in and say, actually, we'll back this. So I went to the senior management team here at Sussex and put it to them. And to be fair, they were very generous about that. We had 3 meetings, I think, in Sussex House with the Vice Chancellor at the time. And the Provost, Saul Becker, was a lovely, lovely man and was very pro what we were trying to do. And I put it to them. I said, would you consider investing £50,000 into this? Because that would give leverage, we think, from other groups and institutions that would then put in the extra money. And we went a long way with that, and I'd hoped that the university would be interested in some of the stats coming out of Chelsea, which is a combined audience of 1.9 billion, an average audience of 2.1 million on BBC television, 112 followers on Facebook in those days.
That's the stat that really matters.
Yeah,
that's right.
Important stuff.
So
Facebook followers.
So there was the sort of logic, if you like, or my hope was that Sussex would go for this. It would raise the profile of Sussex. It would raise the profile of forest food gardens, and so on. We had wonderful endorsements as well from Sir Anthony Selden, from the Vice Chancellor of Buckingham University then, Alice Fowler, the urban gardener, Dame Judy Dench, Peter Ginsersley, who was of the big publishing company, and Rory Sutherland, the vice chairman of Ogilvy, a very big advertising company. And they all endorsed what we were doing, and we thought we were going to get there. But fair enough, the university in the end felt they couldn't go that far and put that amount of money into something, they would have got the money back in terms of £50,000 worth of plants, which would have been a major hit, really, that would have gone into the site in one go. And in many ways, it was probably a good thing that didn't happen. COVID came and completely knocked out the idea of the 2020 flower show. And instead, I then said, well, look, what about an elective? Could we make this a much slower burn thing of involving students much more in the design and purchasing plants and so on, and having a handover baton idea from one group to the next. So one group would design the first part of the garden, and then the next group of students would actually carry out that planting, which is quite an interesting sort of baton handing on notion. And the students, to be fair, seem to have really loved that. Yeah. And Simon Thompson, who's was head of education at Education and Social Work, he was brilliant and backed it. Saul as well backed it, and we got going in, I'm never terribly good on dates, but we got going in either 2019 or 2020, and had the first group of students during COVID. So it was a major challenge to try and deal with this physical piece of land through the internet and through a digital media. That's right. And we did some interesting things of helping students get out from their homes and working that into the elective itself. And many of them wrote afterwards saying, thank you so much for that module. It really helped at a time of, we tend to forget now, but it was difficult, and students especially had a really difficult time. So that was the start of it, and it's just wonderful that you guys have really picked it up with the society in such an interesting way at just the right moment, because when it started, there's very little there. You're putting in whips, you might be putting in some trees, most of it is very low key, and so there wasn't much to shout about for the first 2 years. But now, of course, it's starting to take shape, and you have built on that in a wonderful way. So that was really how it started.
Thank you, John. That's so interesting and really important to know for our society members, for our listeners, and for us about the origins and what came before us. And would you like to tell us why you chose the song Blackbird by the Beatles, which we'd like to play next?
Yes, right. Well, when you asked me to choose a couple of songs, perhaps, it's very tempting to try and go for something modern. And I thought, no, don't do that. You're 75, for God's sakes. Share with people the things that, excited me at your age, really. And this was the White Album that came out with the Beatles. And at school, we would absolutely be waiting on tenterhooks for the next Beatle album to come out. It was a really big deal. And indeed, young people like me, some of us built on the Beatles' sort of revolutionary take and changed things within schools. It was an incredible time, and a lot of it was quite beaty and loud and all the rest of it. And they suddenly then came out with this lovely little tune of a blackbird, in the dead of the night, which was totally different and just acoustic and just da 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 da. It's just sort of magic.
And beautifully kind of fits our forest garden theme.
Exactly.
Of nature as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I hope all of you enjoy. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life you were only waiting for this moment to arise. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these sunken eyes and learn to see
all your life. You were only waiting for this moment to be free. Blackbird fly, blackbird fly into the light of a dark black night. Blackbird fly, blackbird fly into the light of a dark black night. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life you were only waiting for this moment to arise. You were only waiting for this moment to arise. You were only waiting for this moment to arise.
And welcome back, everybody. I think that was a lovely sort of acoustic, rather lovely. It sort of just brings in the feeling of the garden, I suppose. I think, John, is there anything else you want to say about the song?
No, I think it speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. Yeah.
Very well put.
Yeah, thank you, John. Such a beautiful song, and a timeless song in many ways.
Yes.
I love the Beatles, and now we would like to chat about your story, I guess, in many ways. So going back before us youngsters were born,
Yep.
and back into deep time.
Yes, indeed.
You've lived an incredibly eventful life, John. Some of which you conveyed to the students this Monday,
Right.
and one of the most kind of interesting, coolest for us parts of your life story involves the company Coca-Cola.
Yes.
So would you like to tell us a little bit about your involvement with Coca-Cola?
Yes, indeed. It came out sort of accidentally in a way. Long story of how I got there, but I found myself aged 23. I'd shown interest in going west. I had this concern about the environment, which I'd had since aged about 5 or 6. And even now, at my ripe old age, I'm even finding out more about that, of what's behind that. And currently reading The Myth of Normal, looking back at childhood and childhood trauma and so on. And I think that was involved in me being really anxious and concerned about the environment. Anyway, age 23, I found myself in Atlanta, in Georgia, in Southeast America, working for the Coca-Cola company in advertising. Couldn't believe that I was doing that. I thought I was going to work in a bottling plant, sweeping floors and things, and basically was used in the nicest possible way to win the Kentucky Fried Chicken account or to win Pepsi Cola. And to put Coca-Cola into Kentucky Fried Chicken. So I was flown all over the States, meeting people who were selling Coke, and they would chat to me in all sorts of ways and give me an idea of how their operation worked, which meant in the end that Coca-Cola were able to make an offer to Kentucky Fried Chicken. So that's what I was doing. But I was amazed at the profits of this company, amazed at the way they would plough the profits back into other businesses that might be failing in order to not pay so much tax. And those, like Minute Maid and Delta Airlines, would become profitable. It was just an extraordinary company. And I had a lovely boss who loved the fact that I was able to go around and do these things, fly off and pick up a car and zoom around the States. He said, I could never do this, John, so I'm living my teenage years, in a sense, through you, which was generous of him. And I finally, I put together a paper, really, of saying, look, why doesn't Coca-Cola encourage young people to make some real films about their countries, 15 to 20 minutes or so, that captures the real Indonesia or the real India or the real Algiers, because this was riding on the back of their latest promotion, which was It's the Real Thing. And we're talking 1970s here, the 1970s. I was taken seriously. It was the first time, really, I was really taken seriously by the chief executive, a lovely man called Fred Dixon. I met him about 3 or 4 times. This was somebody who was meeting the President of the United States once a month, And he said, you've got a very interesting idea here of capturing a sort of cultural time capsule that may be of interest later on. It's cathedral thinking, although I didn't realise what that was. It was cathedral thinking. It was trying to put something down as a legacy that captured something about these countries through the eyes of young people that we could revisit in 40, 50, 60 years' time, of what was the real India in the 1970s and how might it have changed. Because Coca-Cola was in more countries than the United Nations, which was really interesting. And Fred Dixon offered to pay for me to go to Harvard Business School. And the deal was that they would pay for that and sponsor me through that, and if I then worked for them for 7 years, they would then provide me with $1 million or so to make the films. And that was a crunch moment, and I remember looking him in the eye, really, and saying, well, that's very generous, thank you very much, but I really feel that after that amount of time, I would like to think that I would have met somebody I'd want to marry, and I'd be in a different place in 7, 8, 9 years' time. And rushing around the world making these films might not be, quite so attractive. And so I turned that down. And in the end, I don't actually regret that. I think for me, certainly it was the right thing to do, and not to get into that business world, and instead went down the education world and followed my star, if you like, which was the environment and environmental education, and to try and do a little bit to cope with the anxiety that I'd always had about ecology and the environment and where we were headed. So that was my Coke experience in America.
Wow. And would you like to introduce the song that you shared with us?
Yes. No, thanks very much for that prompt. I mean, what was really interesting was that out of that, obviously, this was talked about at senior level within Coca-Cola, and what came out of it were 2 things. One was a role-playing game called Man in His Environment, where young people were encouraged to take on different roles like trees, river and fish, or estate agents or whatever, and would look at a plan to put in, say, a motorway, and would then discuss that from those different roles. That was one thing. And the other was I'd like to teach the world to sing, because what I was on about was harmony, was young people coming together, was using the power of Coca-Cola, like the United Nations, to work together and understand different cultures. And out of that, I think it is really fair to say, came, and certainly as Mr. Ogilvy said later on, or Rory Sutherland at Ogilvy said, "My goodness, John, that was really something to have influenced that, because that became I'd Like to Teach the World to Sing, which was the biggest, greatest, most important campaign, I think many would say, of the Coca-Cola company." So I'd Like to Teach the World to Sing was very much where I was at and what I was trying to do, in a sense. And the New Seekers picked that up beautifully, and it was written by two Englishmen. I forget their names now, I'm afraid, but it was a great song with young people on a hilltop of all different races and cultures coming together, and this is how it went.
I'd like to build the world a home and furnish it with love. Grow apple trees and honey bees and snow white turtle doves. I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. I'd like to hold it in my arms and keep it company. I'd like to see the world for once all standing hand in hand, and hear them echo through the hills for peace throughout the land. That's the song I hear aloud. Let the world sing today. Oh yeah. I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. All standing hand in hand, and hear them echo through the hills for peace throughout the land. That's the song I hear. Sing it along. Let the world sing today. Oh no, I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony.
Hello and welcome back to the Forest Garden Show. That was I'd Like to Teach the World to Sing by the New Seekers, introduced beautifully by our guest, Dr. John Parry. And John, that song that was in the 1970s, and we know now that, was it 1980 or it was 1970s? Yes. That song, and we know now that we as at least a Western society knew about climate change in the 1970s. The fossil fuel companies did, and we knew about the environmental destruction, the environmental movements, which is very upsetting to hear about in 2024 when we're still debating it. Yes. In many ways. Yep. Yeah, you wrote some new lyrics for that song.
I did. Yes.
Would you like to share those with us?
Yes, this is a complete first, and goodness knows where this will go. But it was really interesting that Coca-Cola, they donated that song, the tune, to the United Nations. So I don't think one's breaking any sort of copyright here. But I found myself thinking in 2017 with the Chelsea Flower Show and everything, of whether we might look at that again in terms of I'd like to help the world to grow the food that we will need. With climate change and rising seas, we might not all succeed. The food we eat sails round the world to follow our demands. There's so much we could grow ourselves by nurturing our lands. It's a time of change, and although it feels strange, we need to increase the range of the food we grow. It's up to you and me to wake up and see that the way we should be is in harmony. I'd like to learn a way to help us grow food cleverly. Alongside miles of crops the same, let's grow diversity. Disease is less when soil is fresh with trees and crops combined. It's time we loved our soils to death to feed all humankind. That's a first.
Amazing, John.
Brilliant live on the air.
That was so unexpected and so brilliant. Thank you so much for that rendition. That was a magical moment.
There you go.
Thank you so much, John. And yeah, you heard it here first, folks. Let's spread that around the world. Thank you, John. And now for our next segment, we have got some breaking news for you.
Live from the field.
Hi guys. How's it working? Is it working?
I think so.
Yes. Hello,
Right,
Isla.
we've resorted to WhatsApp. Hello Jack. Hello Luke. Is John still there?
Yes.
Yes. Hi, Isla.
Hi John. Nice to hear from you guys. Yeah, right now I'm standing in a field looking a bit antisocial. And I don't know if you can hear any clanging or stuff going on in the background, some noise. I'm in a field. I tried asking someone where I was and I got mixed messages. I think.
Okay.
We don't know where Anna is.
Yeah, she's been dropped in a field at the back of a van. We don't know where she is right now. We're very worried for her.
Somewhere above Uckfield in near Fletcher's Wood or Bloyers Wood.
Awesome.
And doing a tree planting activity. There is Forest Without Frontiers here and lots of lovely people. Great for networking, guys. And yeah, so it's a beautiful site. They're doing lots of stuff with rewilding and wood management. There's a guy called Steve. He's telling me a lot about clay. Well, not just me, everyone, but clay and trees and the history of woodlands in Sussex, and how the clay has affected Sussex being more of a woodland area as it's harder to grow agriculture here. So yeah, lots of interesting stuff, which I'll hopefully feed back and be able to repeat in a more concise way. But they're going to introduce beavers in March. They've applied for a license, which is really cool. So they've got deer. They've saved some cows from the slaughterhouse. So they have 3 cows at the moment, and they're trying to get more in. But it's just very just left to do their own thing. Really, they've got oak trees. Lots of more conifers and what can I remember any other species? But yeah, so we're just doing hedges today because they're, as we know, well, some of us, a lot of the importance with hedgerows in creating corridors, and there's no good in having biodiversity just in small areas if they can't move and travel between different spaces. So we're planting a range of different species. I think hawthorn's definitely in there. There's about 7 others, which is quite a lot for hedgerows, but as these aren't being used to fence off cattle, it's okay if it's less dense. But yeah, there's a lovely group of people, and I haven't actually planted anything yet, but I'm just about to. So it's quite exciting. We definitely look forward to taking you guys and the society in general, and anyone else who wants to come up here, because they're just always doing little rewilding projects. So it's a very fun new space to be in.
Sounds fantastic, Isla. And what could you repeat the name of the organisation for us? It's Forests Without Frontiers, is that right?
Yeah, they're working with Forests Without Frontiers. Sorry, I have their business card. So it's not. I think the place isn't owned by Forests Without Frontiers. It's owned by. Let me get it out now. So, Wilderlands, and Wilderlands was this project that one of the guys set up during COVID, and basically bought some land with a friend, and has continued to buy land, which keeps seeming to crop up around here. And they just with the purposes of management and rewilding. And they said they were planning on doing different festivals in this space, and open to people coming in and running their own projects. So it's me.
Sounds pretty good.
Cool.
Sounds like something we
pretty
could.
Good. I
Good
just
stuff.
My ears.
Yeah, better be putting in the work networking for us.
And just
Yeah.
and putting in the work planting those hedges, and also just to clarify for the audience, because there has been quite a lot of product placement in this show. We are not sponsored or taking any money from Coca-Cola Company,
Yet.
Forests Without Frontiers, or any other brands or companies that we may have mentioned. It's we do it out of love for free. We're not making any money from this.
Yeah, until we get a big juicy sponsor deal, and then it is 100% for money.
Luke's the capitalist of the group, all right.
I know. I've seen how you've been, Jack.
Yeah.
I know what you're like.
They seem lovely, but who knows by the end of the day. I'll let you know. I'll give you my honest feedback. But yeah, just quite excited to get cracking with my dad right now. So big ups, he's the one who brought me here.
Big up, Simon.
Yeah.
That's any breaking news about Simon that you can share?
What did he have for breakfast today, Anna?
Scrambled eggs.
Wow. That's breaking. That's breaking. You heard it here first.
Yeah. Breaking news, breaking
cool.
eggs.
I don't want to mention the avocado because I feel like it sounds too hipster, but yeah. That's what it was, unfortunately.
We have so much love and appreciation for Isla's dad, Simon, who helped us out so much with the Forest Garden Festival on the 20th of September. So big shout out to Simon.
Yeah.
Amazing man.
I'm on our radio show, Simon.
On our next Forest Garden Festival, I'm sure, he'll be putting in more poles and doing the lighting as well. So it's not of his free labour.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for that breaking news, Isla. We'll let you get on with your day, planting, and hopefully you will find out where you are at some point during the day. And plant an amazing hedge.
Thank you. I'll send through some photos at the end that nobody can see right now. But yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, no. Good to speak to you guys. Hello to John again. I'm sure he's been extremely informative about what the Forest Garden is.
Definitely.
And how it's going. And the hempcrete building.
Not yet, actually.
We could get onto that. We'll get onto that. Well remembered.
Yeah. Mention it. How could you forget? But yeah, lovely to thank you for having me on the show. I'm sorry that I couldn't be there this week, so
that's all right.
Very sad.
Thank you for being our roving reporter and
exactly. In the field.
Literally in the field.
Oh, yeah.
Brilliant. Well done, Isla.
I'm lucky I have signal here because the whole other time I didn't have signal anywhere. So I was like, oop.
Awesome. Thank you, Isla.
Wish you the best. See you.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, and now I'd like to introduce our next song, Con Lentitude Poderosa by Chris Cristolo. So just to give like the tiniest bit of background about this, it's a soundtrack essentially, and the sort of the concept of this song is essentially a world that has been just ravaged of its resources, of just someone who doesn't, of people who don't care for the place itself and more just for its resources and the opportunities it can provide. And well, on that note, here we go. And welcome back, everybody. Once again, that was Con Lentitude Polorosa by Chris Christodoulou. So that was actually the soundtrack for a game called Risk of Rain 2, and is in fact, to my knowledge, the first soundtrack that Chris Christodoulou has ever made. Like, that's the first sort of big music that he's put out. And funnily enough, he got that sort of gig by basically flubbing on his CV saying he had all this like decades of experience and all this, and created something that I thought was really good, to be honest.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was really atmospheric and a different kind of change of tone from previous, and I enjoyed that. What about you, John?
Definitely, yeah. No, it's a lovely eclectic mix, as we say. Excellent. Yep.
We do. We have an eclectic mix of music on this show, and eclectic mix of interest amongst us as a society.
Definitely.
So, I'd say that suits the diversity in the forest garden.
Exactly.
Itself.
You took the words out of my mouth. Yeah, yeah, brilliant.
And for our last section of the show, we've been talking about the past quite a lot, but we'd like to talk about the future. And John, I'd like to ask you, what do you see for the future of the Forest Food Garden and the area around it in 20 years? Could you paint a picture for us?
Right, in 20 years' time. I mean, the great thing first to say is that the elective has been taken on by Perpetua Kirby, Dr. Kirby, who's doing a wonderful job. We team taught the course over the last couple of years, and Perpetua's really sort of got the thinking behind it and embellishing it and developing it. And then you guys too have, as I said before, you're riding on the back of these plants growing, and you've got a wonderful society, and this radio show again is really impressive. So you are actually laying the foundations, hopefully, for senior management to see that there may really be something here that's important as a living archive. And to be fair, the latest that I'm hearing is that the Vice-Chancellor is actually very supportive of a hempcrete building. I'm hearing this from other people. I haven't heard it direct myself, but that's great to hear. And indeed, I was in touch yesterday with the top hempcrete, one of the top hempcrete people in the country, Graham Durrant, and we're going to write a short paper for the university here, and also the architect department at the University of Brighton that Perpetua has made contact with, which is absolutely brilliant. And we want to present that really as hopefully as a sort of helpful guide of the core things about this building that might be useful for the students and for the architects to think about, because he's very good. So that takes us then to 20 years. If that building happens, then there would be a safe space where academics and students could come together in a sort of kitchen type arrangement, a sort of kitchen seminar room that would be relaxed, very different to a lecture theatre, different indeed to our seminar rooms here at Sussex, where people would hopefully feel safe to talk about their anxieties about climate breakdown and what we're going through, but also an area where one can be positive as well, because out of this building, it will be very easy to just open the doors and you're straight into a living area that is itself surviving. And they can't move. The trees and the plants can't move. They are there, and they depend to some extent on our nurturing of them, the stewardship of them. And that relationship with these plants and thinking in terms of philosophy as well as science, I think could be a very powerful way of learning and indeed teaching. And we would see in 20 years' time, we'd see some of those trees at 15 feet or so, The walnut tree will be on its way and producing fruits, hopefully. The ginkgo will be starting to make its mark, but it's still got a long way to go. But the peach and the almond trees will be enjoying the different climate that we're going to have then. And there's a danger of thinking, oh, this would be wonderful, it's going to be a lovely climate. With that change of climate will, of course, come a lot of challenges, which is why I think we need our different spaces. Yes, we need lecture theatres. Yes, we need digital communication and so on. But we also need quiet places. We need places to share concerns, as I've said. And into this space will come younger people. It's already happening, coming and helping with aspects of the garden, mulching, possibly watering when necessary, and also adults with learning disabilities as well, which I know is starting to happen and is something that I did in the centre that I and others set up in Lewis several years ago. And that work again with adults with learning disabilities was so rewarding, just a wonderful time. So that would be the hope. That's the vision, and it's not so easy to shut it down. And that was part of the thinking of getting something living in the ground. This isn't a course quite that can be axed just quickly without any comeback, because those trees and those plants are begging the question, and now what? And would the university really just let the whole thing completely go? I think not. And as the challenges become greater, I think all of us would see a little space like that as something important. And wouldn't it be fantastic if every university in the country, and indeed in the planet, took on a little place like this within the campus? And you are showing that you care about it. If the students had said this is a load of nonsense and we don't want this, and you didn't vote for it and didn't come to it, it would have died. But it hasn't, and you've kept it going, and bravo, well done.
Thank you so much, John, and that's such a beautiful vision to end this show with. Yeah. And the future is a very important part of our society, and this idea of thinking long term, which I think is increasingly important for so many young people in the face of climate breakdown and the ease and danger of thinking very short term. So having that space, and for us knowing and attempting to think long term about what we're going to leave behind, has been a great solace and a great gift to us as a society.
And for myself personally, having sort of been one of the founding people with the sort of society and whatnot, I think for me personally, one of the most important things has not just been like the connection to nature, but just sort of the community that forms around that. I mean, you can even see it with the society, with us. Sorry about that. With us getting even like 15, 20 people per week, like the amount of people we got in during the festival, it's like meeting people that I otherwise wouldn't have, and people who've been like an enormous part of my life. And that's what's sort of so important about these sorts of projects, like the ability to just sort of bring people together. And I think now we're going to lead out on a contribution from Riley, one of our regulars, who it has to be said has also been playing a role behind the scenes here, helping us out a lot with the sound. So thanks so much for that, Riley. And here we go with Fishing for Fishies. Hope you all enjoy.
Thank you, guys. See you later.
Fishy.